family. We have four kids. We've been married for 15 years, actually. Is it 15?
Yeah.
Yes. As of September. Juliana is 12. She's our middle schooler. Dawson is 9. They're in the middle. Genevieve's 8. And Jonathan is 6. They keep us pretty busy, especially, well, I would say especially on the weekends, but actually during the week as well. So it's kind of like nonstop with our family and our household. I work as a nurse. Jayme has a couple things she wants to add to our family.
Yeah, anytime anybody's speaking and I look at this pretty picture that they show of the family, I always think, oh, that's so beautiful. And I thought, I wish that my family looked like that this morning when we were like, get out the door. Anyway, that's a beautiful picture of us and I love it, but yet our family is crazy. So we're normal, just like you guys. So I just wanted to preface that a little bit of, we're right in the groundworks like you are. We're on the ground. We're working hard at parenting. So we're in the midst of it. Whether you're coming into it or you're going out of it, wherever you are, we're right there. So we're going to talk through these things, not from a place of like, we got it all together, but a place of this is what we're doing. Maybe this will work for you. This is what we've learned from parents ahead of us. This is what we've learned in our time with like seeking after God. But we're still learning and growing. So as we're talking, please feel free to join in, ask questions, maybe say something that's worked for you. We want to set the stage for that kind of thing as well. The age that they put on this faith commitment is 6 to 11. However, every child is very different. So, for example, our second child, I feel like he was into this way earlier than 6. Whereas I have an 8-year-old right now that maybe he's just getting into, so it's very much depending on your child. But these are the kind of the characteristics that go in this age range. It's moving from concrete to abstract. So in the previous milestones you had, milestone number 1, which was forming a home. So basically, to me, forming a home is about training the parents. Like we have a kid, now what? And we're kind of, what do we want our household to be about? We're kind of setting an environment that we're going to raise kids in. Milestone number 2 is more about authority. So we have a child from 2 to 5, and basically our purpose during that age group is to tell them, okay, you're not the boss, even though you want to be. We are the boss, and during this time, mommy and daddy are going to tell you what to do. You're not going to tell us. So that's kind of that 2 to 5 age range. And then we're going to move into this, which is the faith commitment stage. Now your child's going to start changing, and they used to be very abstract, and now they're moving from concrete to abstract. So everything was concrete. It was the black and white. Yes, no. And now their mind is growing, and they're seeing beyond that. And now that's when the questions start coming up, that they're asking questions about life, about God. So you'll see a lot of questions coming up. And that's why I say with my second child, when he was 4 or 5, he was asking me questions about heaven and about God and about very complicated things. And I was like, oh my gosh, Juliana never asked these kind of questions. So they're all very different. It's fun. It's a really fun age because they're getting a sense of humor. They want to tell jokes, and they're not just concrete anymore. Things all of a sudden, sarcasm kind of makes a little more sense to them. It provides a lot of laughs at our dinner table. They're showing love to others. They're trying to understand. It's not just mommy telling them to love someone. It's that abstract thinking. They also are getting more independent. So you probably saw that earlier anyway, but now it's more, no, I do know what I like, so now I would like to move in that. Complaining and arguing, again, coming from that abstract thinking, trying to talk their way out of punishment, manipulating. They may start that earlier, but they may not have. This is now they're thinking, whoa, mom and dad react this way, I can do this, I can try to get out of it. That's all during this age group. Strong-willed, self-centered, overconfident. Those are all things that are going to be popping up during these years. This is why sorry. I already talked about that. Sorry, I skipped. So anyway, he's going to talk about what's.
So milestone number 3. That's why we're here. So we've talked about the faith commitment. There's obviously other aspects of leading your children and going through this aspect, but we're going to talk specifically about faith commitment today. This is the milestone number 3. So preparing parents to partner with God in the spiritual birth process in the child's life, where their child will begin a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So because of your child's development, they're kind of getting to a point now where they can understand abstract thinking, like everything's not as concrete. So they can kind of understand exactly who Jesus is, who God is. They can start reading their Bible. They can start really developing their faith. And this is a process. It's a process that they're walking through, just like we walk through it as well. So we want to partner with walking through that with you.
Yeah, so an example that we tend to use a lot in our church is called a midwife example. So I don't know how many people are familiar with a midwife, but it's different than a doctor, and they assist in the delivery of a baby. So the example is that the midwife is waiting for the baby to come out. The midwife doesn't do anything to get the baby to come out. They can't manipulate anything to get that baby. They can't control anything. They are just there ushering in this new baby. And so if you can think through that, then now think through what you do as a parent. Even though we want to control and we want to make it happen, we are watching this baby. We gave birth to it, or we adopted it. We have this child, and it's now all of a sudden starting to think. It's not just saying, yes, Mom, yes.
Hopefully I forgot all my handouts. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just realized.
You can do it now. That's fine.
No, they're in the car, aren't they?
Oh, they're in the car? You can bring them up? I thought so. Go ahead, run. I'll start from right now.
I'm sorry. That just hit me.
That's our morning. You do our morning.
All the kids are alive. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one child with someone I don't know, but
We know them.
So anyway, so they're starting to understand more abstract. So that's why we say this is the faith commitment age, where now all of a sudden we are not telling them what to do, but we're kind of watching, like what's going on. And we've taught them all these things about God. Hopefully we've shown them all these things about God. So now, not that it has to happen during these years, but this is a critical time where their brain, at least in most kids, can start to understand this thing of Christianity. What is it? So we are there not to control. We can feed information, but we have to be careful not to manipulate them as we give them information. It's just, I really like the midwife example. It makes sense to me, even though I didn't have a midwife, but it makes sense because my personality, come on, God, I want every one of my children to love and treasure Jesus. I do, but that's not my call, and I have to be okay with that. Like that is it's not in my control. So what our job is to sit and look for signs. So Dave's as soon as he steps back, he's going to talk a little bit about what the gospel is. Because as parents, we say, we love and treasure Jesus, but do we even know? I think maybe our concept of the gospel has gotten so complicated or complex that we have a hard time remembering, okay, what is the gospel? What are the basics of the gospel? Because now I have a 5, a 6, a 7-year-old. They don't need all this theology that we've learned all over the years. What is the gospel? Who is Jesus? Who are we? So we have to, and so that's why he's going to, maybe I'll start a little bit. But we're going to go into what is the gospel. Again, I want you to try, if you can get anything, to me, the most important part of this whole thing that we're going to teach you is the midwife example. To remember, our job is to be patient, to watch for signs. If you talk to a midwife, they could tell you all the signs that a woman is going to start delivering soon. So you have her water breaks, her dilation, for anybody that does, I'm sorry for the details, but all of the signs, and they know it's coming. But again, one woman could be fully dilated and then go for hours still. So you have to be patient. You have to say that every person is different, every child is different, and I'm going to wait for when this baby comes out. I'm going to usher that in. So to me, that mentality helps me. Maybe you're different than me. Maybe you're much more patient in that. But I want to, come on, guys. You know this. We've walked through this so many years. So this is a good, for me, I love teaching this part because it's a good reminder for me. And I set you up for the gospel.
Sorry about this. We put all this work into these.
You were very efficient. You had to go upstairs, too.
Yeah.
This
He was here.
was lucky I had my keys in my pocket. I didn't even have to try and find them. So, I'm not sure exactly what Jayme
I just set it up that we have all this theology and we kind of congregate.
So, yeah, for me, I like what he said earlier about parenting being a process. Like, it's not an event, it's not a one-time thing, it's a process as we walk through life. So it's the same thing with the gospel and with sharing the gospel with our kids and explaining to them who God is, who Jesus is. It's not something that has to happen like one time. It's something that you walk through your life. You walk through life. I love driving my kids to different events because those are sometimes, especially if I have my son Dawson with me, those are the best conversations that we have is when we're driving. Driving, bedtime, at the table, dinner table, things like that. Like as you do life, that's when you have these conversations. That's when you talk about the gospel. So I want to get away from trying to simplify the gospel, but I also want to be able to explain it in a simple way. So the first thing is we have to understand what the gospel is for ourselves. And for me, I think that's also been a process. Understanding what the gospel is, what is grace, what did Jesus really do for me. So I don't want to simplify it, but for the purpose of the class, just want to simplify it. So you have to talk about sin first, that we are all sinners. Children are not morally or ethically neutral. They come out of the womb and they sin. Like some people believe, the world believes that we are completely neutral and that we choose to go good or bad. No, we're bad. We're all sinners. We've all fallen short of what God calls us to be. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things, desperately sick, who can understand it? Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So we have all sinned. So we first have to understand that. And a lot of times, children understanding this is during discipline. So they act out, they don't follow you, and you say, it's okay. You're human. But you're a sinner, and just like Daddy, I fall short of what God's standard is, and I'm a sinner too. We're all sinners, and we have to talk about how to rectify that. So the second part of the gospel is the sacrifice. Jesus' ultimate sacrifice for our sins. So as you talk about, okay, you're a sinner, and they're all like, oh, I'm a sinner. Oh no, what am I going to do? You talk about, well, no, Jesus is the sacrifice that paid the penalty for your sins. John 3:16-17, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. But this is the best part. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Jesus came to save the world. Romans 5:8, but God shows his love for us, and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And these are obviously just examples of verses, for salvation. But pull your Bible out. Pull your Bible out. Open up the Bible to these verses or other verses, and show them exactly what God says about sin and about salvation and how Jesus came to save us. And then the third part is that we have to believe it. It's not enough just to understand that we're sinners and know that Jesus came, but we also have to accept it and we have to believe it and have that in our life. Accept Jesus' sacrifice as truth, and we have to confess it. Romans 10:9, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So it's important. You don't necessarily have to have a date of salvation. My parents would tell me a story about when I was 5 and I asked Jesus to come into my heart, and I would always use that in my testimony. But did I really understand what was going on at that date? No, it was a process throughout middle school and high school and even college and even now that I began to really understand what salvation really was. So it's okay if your kids don't have that date, mark it on your calendar or anything like that. That's okay. It's completely fine. But we're walking through this. We're explaining the gospel to them, as we live life. I'm going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So some considerations for this milestone.
Yeah. The big thing is like, we try to stay away from big words that we probably understand, but they're not going to understand. And I don't want to raise, this is just me, I don't like when I talk to people that don't understand Jesus and I use these big words and they're just like, who is this woman? Like, I don't want to raise kids that can't speak normal language. Like, what is the gospel? Can they explain it to their other 8-year-old friend? Like, what do they believe? So we try to get away from big words. It may be hard. You don't even realize that we have so many big words we use, and some big words are great words, but the 7-year-old's not going to get it. Use open-ended questions that lead to discussions. So a lot of, in the beginning, I would have to train myself in this, because this doesn't have to do with the gospel, but how was your day? Good. Okay, that's not a good question. So think of other questions.
When they say good, they're like,
or go further.
How was it good?
So something I use is, did anything today, like, when I pick up my 12-year-old from middle school, I said, so what today made you happy or sad or angry or like what? And she giggles all the time. But she can't say yes or no or good or bad. She has to actually say something. Open-ended questions. So when we're talking about the gospel, when you're in discipline, do you get that? Yes. No. What did you hear Mommy say? That would be a good question. What did you hear Daddy say? Or what are you feeling right now when I say that? Those are questions that are going to make them speak, and they don't have to speak. They can say, I'd rather not talk, and that's okay. But at least give them an opportunity to talk, to share, and learn to listen to slow down and listen. That's something I remind myself all the time. Slow down. Listen to them, because they're individuals. They're hearts that we're talking to. They're precious little lives. So we want to, and they're all not the same. Again, try to think that too as you're talking to your child. Remember that this is a process in your children's lives, just like your life. So some of my kids, we have talked about the gospel over and over and over, and that's beautiful, and that's okay. Like, it's not like Dave was saying, a one time, here it is, and they get it. Like, no, and a lot of it, the gospel talks that we have are during ugly, hard times with our kids. So try not to protect your kids from all the stuff that's out there. Because to me, that's where our conversations have gone. When Genevieve has come home and she's talked about kids not being kind to her, we have to talk about that. And the gospel comes in and it plays right into it. So I want to shelter her, and I want to blame the teacher, and I want to blame the other kids. And maybe they are at fault, but no, like, there's such a bigger opportunity there to talk about the gospel, and like, they're not getting the gospel. They don't, we are all sinners. They're acting out in a sinful nature, and just like we're sinners. So I go there. I try really hard to use those things and not say, oh, come in here, let me protect you, let me blame everyone else, I really try to use those for gospel talks. So for faith talks is what LFA would call them. It is okay if there's no date of salvation. Dave already talked about that. God's grace can cover your mistakes, and you don't have to be perfect. So you explain the gospel and it goes nowhere, that's okay. Or you fumble over your words and you walk away from the conversation. You're like, I should have said that. I say that all the time. I should have said that. That was such a good, why did I miss that? Like, that was such a, like, they asked the question and I didn't know that answer. It's okay. Like, it's okay. Because you live with this child. You're going to have more opportunities. So just have grace over yourself. You don't have to know all the answers.
And it's okay in the moment to even say, okay, that's a great question, and I don't know that, but I'm going to go ask someone. I'm going to go find out the question, and then that gives you an opportunity to bring it back to them later. So go find a dad or a mom, that have been through this before, that have asked these questions, that have dealt with this with their children, and ask them, hey, I got this question with my son the other day. How do I handle this? Not just with the gospel, but with everything. It's okay in front of them to be transparent and to say, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but that's what, we're all in this together, and I'm gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out together.
What it is not, it's not a formal prayer. It is not accepting Jesus into your circulatory system. When you're little, they said, you're accepting Jesus into your heart, and kids got very confused with that. So again, try to explain it in a way that's not so like step 1, 2, 3. It's not fire insurance. We don't accept Jesus so we don't go to hell. Like, there's so much more to life than not going to hell. Like, there's a relationship with Jesus that he's calling for. It's just, so it is not church membership or baptism. It is not hereditary. Just because mommy and daddy believe in Jesus, you don't need to. Like, this is your choice. You are choosing I hope I make it attractive enough that it's something that you at least question, that you would like, but you don't have to. It is not the result of what others do. Parents, it is not Burger King buffet, have it your way. You make it however you want it. The Bible does lay out things about who Jesus is, what he did. We can't manipulate that to be what we want it to look like. So these are just, again, this is probably taking it away from I don't know what your background is, but my background is very legalistic. So this helps me to kind of draw away from that. Like, yes, there's some beautiful things and some rules and stuff, but that's not the gospel. The gospel is just a loving relationship that Jesus is calling us to, that he did for us. So I get excited about this. This is like, I love this this milestone, because I enjoyed the 2 to 5 year olds, but it is draining of saying authority, statements over and over and over. And now they're like thinking, and I can dialogue, and we can process with them. Not all the time. My issue is I try to over process with them, so I have to be careful. Stop. Like, just stop the conversation there. We can talk more later, because you don't want to tire out your child, and I don't want to do that. But this is a fun time. Like, we get a chance to impact them with something of God during these times where they're asking questions. And every child's going to look different in this. Some evidences. So again, we're going to go back to the midwife thing, what you're looking for. So you may start seeing this in age 4. You may start seeing this in age 8. You may start seeing this in age 12, wherever you are. They're starting to get upset with injustices. They have, so they don't think something is right, and they don't get why it's not being taken care of. Burden for the oppressed, like they don't understand. So recently my kids have been talking about abortions, and we've talked about that, and I was like, I never thought I'd be doing this at my kitchen
There's a lot of conversations going on right now in our house, because of the politics and stuff.
Yeah, so it's been interesting.
So it's been interesting.
I try really hard not to sway. They're asking questions, so it's great conversation. More contemplative, so they're thinking so that would be, as we're eating cereal in the morning, they're asking these kind of questions. Bringing God into everyday conversation. So it may be something simple about school, but let's bring God into it. Again, I'm not trying to shove God down your throat, but let's gently, how does this...
And they're also starting to bring God into the conversations.
Yeah.
Not just you.
Right, but that's what it used to be mommy always doing it, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, that's not how God would want us to. Yeah, right. Prayers are from the heart. They're not routine. They're actually, oh, mommy's sick, and I want to pray for you. That is so fun. Respect during the prayers of others. Apologies over the hurt their own sin causes, especially sensitive to the heart our sin brings to God. This is a big thing that I'm very sensitive to this. So this is where I put my midwife hat on and say, I am not seeing this at all. So my one daughter, she has a very hard time, like when she offends someone, I don't see that she's understanding that it hurt them or that it hurt God. So that's why she's 8 and Dave's going to go into communion, but we haven't let her do communion yet because we're not seeing some evidence, and it's okay. Like, this is her life.
There are some evidences, but not...
There are some, and there's some other things, but this I was like, I'm just not... Again, I don't know. I'm just watching and waiting, and I don't know exactly what's going on. I can ask questions, but this is a big one for me. I'm not seeing with her. So I'm just being patient, and maybe she does have a relationship with Jesus. I don't know. Again, we're in process. We're learning, and that's our 3rd child that we're talking about. That's quite different than my 2nd. So it's been interesting to learn. Making spiritual applications to life situations. So Juliana will come home and say, I just don't understand. But you know what, Mom? They don't know Jesus, and they're not. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. Now she's 12, and she's further along in this. But she's making those applications. I'm not. I used to do that, but now she's doing that on their own. So these are all signs of God's doing something in their heart. He's getting them prepared. They're starting a relationship with Jesus. I don't know about a date. I don't know but I see stuff going on, and this is beautiful. And this is stuff that you want to be watching for.
Before we go into communion, does anybody have any questions as far as related to the gospel? We might answer some of those questions going to communion too, but anybody have anything pertinent they want to add or any questions or anything? No? All right, cool. So communion is obviously it's a symbol of our relationship with Jesus. So it's the actual act of living out our faith or showing that that we have a faith in Jesus Christ. Obviously, baptism is one of those too, but communion is something that we can do. We do obviously at our church practices it every first Sunday of the month, as well as Easter, Christmas Eve, things like that. But and other churches sometimes do it every week. But the communion specifically is acting out that belief in Jesus Christ. So we don't let our children who haven't professed that belief take communion. We'll take communion as a family together. We'll go up front. We'll grab the bread and dip it in the wine or the grape juice, whatever it is. But they will come with us. Our little ones, our two little ones that don't take communion. So they'll come with us, but they won't actually take communion. And the big thing is, especially for Jonathan, the big fight we have on a weekly basis or a monthly basis when we do this is he's just hungry and he wants some bread, and everybody else is eating bread. So until he understands it's not just like a snack, at the end of church before we get to lunch, then he's not going to take communion. So
he just likes food.
He likes food.
None of our other kids have the
Yeah.
food. He just likes food.
Yeah, exactly. So this is just acting out that belief. So how we demonstrate our belief in the gospel. So our church has developed these little booklets that are really interesting, really good to walk through. We've walked through this with our two oldest, and we're starting to walk through it with our third. So once you see that, we saw that one slide with all those examples of your child walking in faith with Jesus Christ. Once you see those things happen and you see a majority of those things versus selfishness and other things, then it's time to start talking about communion. So we usually pull this book out. This is the one for the kids.
Yeah, there's a parenting guide and there's a workbook that you do. It's really good. I have to say I don't know. Has anyone ever used it yet? It's a great book.
It's a great resource, and we're not going to obviously go through it. But this is a great resource that our church has developed, and I think Greg Hill and Frank Jeremiah developed it. And this basically does it for you in a sense. So we have them for you.
Yeah, and you don't
this
have
is this is the parents' guide, and this is the children's guide, and you can basically go through this with them. So we don't necessarily need to go into all the specifics of it, but the communion book will talk about the Old Testament history of communion and the New Testament history of it.
Probably more than you know about communion,
Right.
because I didn't know everything.
Yeah.
About
And why we take communion. What does the bread symbolize? What does the wine or the grape juice symbolize? We actually did go to a church one time in Massachusetts with my family, and they used real wine. It was actually really cool. Ways to observe communion. How do we do it? Why we do it? What do the bread and juice mean? So, and then it basically walks them through answering all of those questions. So the big thing is the gospel. You see the faith commitment, and then you're like, okay, well, maybe we need to sit down and start talking about communion. And this is before baptism. Go ahead. We also want to talk about a little bit about. Does anybody have any questions about communion? I know we went through that really, really quick. But like I said, the book really lays it out really well for you. So my wife's going to talk about the 4 foundations.
Yeah. So we explained a lot about this age group, and this is why I kind of like this age group too, the 6 to 11, because a lot of times they're willing to try things now. So we're moving out of, we have toddlers, little ones that we're kind of dragging along to events. Not dragging, I hate to say that, but now they're getting older and it's fun. Like, let's go do something together, because their brain's working. We can talk about things. It makes sense. We're not just taking them to a taste of mission. I'm not just taking them somewhere to do something, and they're coming with me. As much as I try to explain it, I don't really know how much they understood when they were 3, but now they're getting it. So I love this age group, and this is also a great age group to, if you haven't already, which I would say definitely put the 4 foundations into earlier age groups, but they're starting to get it at this age. 4 foundations for families that we talk about a lot at LFA is simply just a tool. Nothing magical about it. It's just giving you some examples to bring God into everyday life, in parenting, and with your kids, into your marriage, into relationship with friends. Simply our faith talks, talking about God and your relationship. Prayer times, easy to explain. God sightings, remembering, oh, God did this, and live on mission. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to give some examples of the last one, which was live on mission. This was kind of, and you kind of got sense when I mentioned having toddlers. This was a hard thing for me. I enjoy going out and serving other people. So it was really hard when I had 4 little ones. I had them close to each other, so I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, and it was selfish. So I needed to learn that no, this was a season of my life, and so we worked with that. God taught me a lot during those years. But as they started getting older, it was fun. Like, now God, you're opening my eyes to other things that I used to want to do with them, but now I can do with them. So I could take my 4 kids to Taste of Mission. If you don't know what Taste of Mission is, our church does a event
every 6 months.
Every 6 months, where the whole church shuts down and goes out and serves the community. So we can take them to things where we go and we clean up a neighbor's backyard for them, and they get what we're doing, they understand it, and they can actually work. So I'm not helping them with their juice boxes. And like, now they can participate. They may get tired, but they can participate. So live on mission is you look for ways to form relationships outside of your comfort zone: school, sports, dance, community. My kids also, as they're getting older, they're getting involved in more things. So there's drama club that they're in. They're in dance. They're in soccer. They're in wrestling. We're in a lot of things in the community.
Our kids go to public school. I don't know if we said that.
Yeah,
earlier.
sorry.
So
yeah.
Our kids go to public school. So we are meeting people that we use the term don't know God. We don't like the Christian non-Christian thing.
Yeah.
So we say, well, does your friend know God, or do they follow God? And we have a lot of families that are Catholic and they go to church, but they don't necessarily follow God, at home. So we try and not use those cliche terms as well. But we have a lot of interaction with parents who don't have any interaction with anybody, who loves God at all. So that's a big part of our life, is living on mission, spending time with these families, going to their homes, having dinners. And a lot of us meeting them is just through our kids, through sports, through school, obviously dance. So we interact with them, and then as we interact with them, we find out what's going on in their lives. Where are they struggling, and then when life falls apart for them, hopefully we're in their life, and they come to us for answers and for questions, and we can talk to them about God.
It sounds awful to say it, but that's the truth. Like, we found that a lot of our friends that don't know God, that when there's hard things, like they want to talk to us, and that's
a lot of times they don't know where to go.
They don't know where to go. They don't have anyone they feel like could actually pray for them, And so then they'll ask us, but we're great friends with them. We've never talked about it before, but yet they know they can come to us. So I love that. Like, I love getting a Facebook message saying, I don't know who else to ask, but could you just pray for me? I'm like, absolutely. Again, but because we form relationships with them, and it's through our kids. So we prep our kids, even before we go just to a party with all of these friends. We say, listen, we're going to a party. A lot of people, they may not know God, but we're going to go have fun, and but I want you to be good examples. So if they're not following their mommy and daddy, that's okay. But I'm expecting you guys to follow your mommy and daddy as we're at this party. So again, it's not making us better than them, but we have different expectations, but we're also going there to love on them. Like, we're not looking down on them. We just have different things that we live by. But we go with the purpose of, we're going to love on these people. So that might not be living missionally, but that's setting up relationships. So we're teaching them, this is just everyday stuff. This doesn't have to be some lofty thing. This is just everyday relationships that we're forming. That when their life falls apart, which just sounds awful, but we're there. We're there for people. We want these kind of relationships.
And this can be risky. It can look a little like sometimes we'll go to a friend's house and they invite other friends and we're like, wow, we didn't know they were going to be here. Or we didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, it gives us opportunities to
Yeah.
talk to our kids about the world and how they're different from us, and just to bring the gospel into it. And it obviously, if there's a dangerous situation, then we can grab our kids and we can take them out of there and we can go home. Like, we're in charge, But and it can be risky, but it's still beautiful to be able to walk through that with our kids. Like, we're not sheltered in our little Christian community and with just our Christian friends. No, they see other people, they interact with other people, and they understand how to love people where they are, not where we expect for those people to be.
Yeah, that's good. So again, if this is something like, I don't know what she's talking about, and this is hard for us, there are, like, look for take advantage of church mission projects. Our church is so cool that you don't even have to come up with your own. Like, just sign up for one that the church already formed, and you just show up. Like, I tell people, like, there's no reason you can't. Like, at least every 6 months we have something that you can sign up for. Take your kids, go pick up the shingles off the ground with them as they're building the roof. Like, it's not, like, there's opportunities. You just have to look for them, and you don't even have to be that creative. And looking for ways to love people in other countries as well. That's my heart. I love overseas missions. And Juliana is 12 now, and I'm not going to cry. Anyway, my heart is overseas. I love overseas missions. And she keeps saying, she said for the last 2 months, Mommy, next time you go to Haiti, I want to come with you. And I said, oh, yes, I want you to come. Like, I don't know when, but that's so exciting to me, to want to bring her, to somewhere to serve other people. Like, that's beautiful. And to me, that's why I do what I do as a mom. Like, I want them to know that there's life outside of Juliana, there's life outside of Dawson, and Jesus has done something in us, and we want to love other people. So
there's nothing wrong with going to Disney World.
No.
Our whole family's going to Orlando in March, I guess.
Yeah.
But we also have the dream of taking our 4 kids to Haiti. And it's kind of a dangerous country, But we have a partnership set up there with an orphanage, and we can provide a safe place for them, inside of that, but also show them other countries and how other kids live. Another thing I want to add was we started this. We were pastorate leaders 4 or 5 years ago, and we started this with moving missionally, and we're still part of a pastorate that reaches out to the community. So we go to a pastorate, we interact with Christians in our church, and our kids have friends, in that pastorate. But then that pastorate also goes and moves in the community outside of our pastorate with other people. So our kids were able to serve with their friends and reach out to other people within that pastorate too. And
the last point is not easy, and it involves risk. It's not easy. Sometimes I've gone to a Taste of Mission and it's been a flop. Like, I've walked away and I'm like, I don't even know what to tell the kids after this. Like, I don't think we did anything, and it was awful. But that's okay. Like, I had to come up with something. We debriefed or said, maybe we won't do this next time. Like, that's okay. That's normal, and they need to know we're not perfect. There may be times where, like, I remember this day. It looks real nice, but this was maybe when we first started Jonathan and Genevieve had major
You
meltdowns.
see, this is Genevieve here.
Like
You
she
can
is
see
already starting.
How thrilled she is to be there.
Like she was already starting to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh gosh, here we are with these people and with these neighbors that all these people are trying to help, and there's my kids like, I want a juice, but that's okay. Like Johnny was 5, I don't know what the age is, 4 and 6 at that point, and it's okay. Like we're messy, we're normal people, we're not expected to be anything great. We're just trying to train them, and training doesn't happen in one day, one event. It's a lifetime. It's as much time as I have with them. From 0 to 18, I will do everything that God calls me to train them. I can't control them and I can't make it perfect, but we're going to keep presenting opportunities for them to be trained. And I leave it at that. Like it just, so hopefully you can see our hearts in all of that. Question and answers. This would be a time that you think through. Oh, and we have, I don't know if most of you have these. I have some. Probably all have them. Just once. And the communion we have as well.
Yeah.
So.
Anybody have any thoughts? Any questions?
Has anyone ever already talked to their kids about, have you guys already talked about communion or started communion with your kids? Yes.
She's 6.
Okay. But she hasn't done it.
She has.
Oh, she has done it. Cool.
And that's a good point. Like even if they've taken communion, they've already started it. You could still go through the book. You can still explain these things to them, and continue like teaching them and going through it.
That book's a good book.
Have you gone through it?
I have.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
That's cool.
Good.
We actually make the first communion
Yeah.
something that's kind of remembered. I don't have a party or anything, but we try to do it on Christmas or Easter, just something so
it's significant.
Significant.
So it is significant.
So we don't it's not. I don't go back to my Catholic roots of making it because I don't feel like it's a.
We don't have a first communion
sacrament.
party or cake.
But it is something to remember, and I want them to know we're starting a new, this is something cool. So we try to celebrate it in a small way. And so each of them has been a little different, but I try to get, the 2 that we've done, we try to get some family or close friends to take the communion with us. So when we go up, I'll ask ahead of time if they'll come up with us, take communion, and we'll all pray as a big group. And it's kind of, it's cool. That's been something that I've enjoyed.
I cannot imagine something more encouraging for a first communion.
Yeah.
That having friends and family all together.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really special.
Yeah.
And for Dawson, Dave's family was down from Boston because they don't live here, and that was fun. They were here for Christmas Eve, and they took communion with us when Dawson took his first communion, so that was special. And for both of them, I bought them new Bibles, and I wrote something in there and I gave it to them that night or before we went to church that day. Just again, it doesn't have to be this big hoopla, just something that, this is important. And if I put all this effort into you winning a goal and a championship soccer, I want to make sure that you taking communion for the first time it makes my heart happier than you scoring a goal. Yeah. To me, I want it. I don't need a party, but I want to celebrate it more than I celebrate his success in sports or academics. I want him to know that's important to Mom and Dad. So yeah. I think I explained a little bit about my Genevieve, but just to give you some, she's really all over the place. So she's a challenging.
She's a dramatic child.
She's a dramatic child, so I'm really learning. Part of my process is learning how to deal with her and what her ups and downs are, and how does Jesus play into this, and so that's where I am in process with that child. Sometimes I think Jonathan, which is 2 years younger, will take communion and do all that before her, and that's okay. That's part of us parenting and being that midwife of watching our kids.
Something so amazing about God through our lives is that for us is that when we thought our first 2 daughter and son, they're very quiet and calm, and so we thought we had it all. figure out.
Yes,
We got
right.
our third, and then we realized we needed God so much again and again. So that is something of mercy. That is what I see from God to us. That
You're
was
right.
as you went through these points of what is going on in this time of their lives. I just see it like, wow, we have a big chance to start some things over, as we are figuring out our third child again with the first two. I mean, that's something that I see the mercy of God just right there.
Right. Yeah, I cry with Genevieve. I go back in my room and I'm like, God, I don't know how to do this.
That's right.
She's a beautiful young girl, but I need help. I don't know how you made her. That's what I say all the time. How did you make this girl? Like, to teach me. I want to learn how to parent her. So and if I didn't have that personality, would I be crying out for as much help as I am? Yeah. So it is. You're right. It is the mercy of God that brings us. So.
Any other questions or anything?
No.
Yes.
I'm 17. I don't have
Right.
any kids. But I work in the Christian Village, and
Right.
I'm constantly around kids like around this
Right.
age. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not always present. Like, I try and get out there like as much as I can and try and be that outside adult figure to
Right.
these kids. But how, like, when you walk away and you're like, oh, I should have said this or that, like, how do you prep for that? Like, those, I mean, I know you can't prep for those specific questions, but just in general, so if they do throw out that one question, I can kind of not answer it 100%, but kind of.
I mean, you certainly need to try and understand the gospel for yourself, for your own life, and then what as you experience life with them, as you interact with them, then your understanding of the gospel is just outflowing towards them, and what I said about like not having answers, like for the most part, like you're gonna have most of the answers. It's maybe that one time that kid comes to you and asks you something, but you assure them, like if you don't have the answer, you say, you know what, I don't know, but I promise you next week when I come back here, or 2 weeks from now when I come back here, I'm gonna find you and we're gonna talk about this again. You know, so you don't leave it open ended. You don't say, yeah, I don't know, good luck, you know, and you walk away. No, not at all. You're like, you know, I don't know, but we're going to talk about this again, you know, and then you walk away and you figure it out and you think about it some more, and then you can, you know, explain something to them. I mean, you can certainly give them an answer, you know, from what you know, but then you say, you know what, there might be a little bit more here, you know, I'm going to think about this some more and interact with them. I mean, you're not going to see these kids on a daily basis or throughout the day, but, you know, are you there once a week, twice a week?
I try and make it out once a week.
Yeah.
Sunday,
So that's significant, and they're going to see that, like, and that's part of you living missionally. You're going outside of yourself, and you're giving your time and your energy to spend time with them. They're going to see that. They're going to see the gospel played out in your life, you know, when you're with them. So I think God has a lot of grace for us when we don't have the answers right away. Like so be prepared, but then if you don't have something, you know, say, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about that again. And then you're going to see the same things that we talked about here with our children. You're going to see those things in your kids that you're interacting with, like a love for others, and when they sin or when they do something that's wrong, they're really hurt by it and they're upset about how it hurts others and how it hurts God. Like, you're going to see those things, and you may not be taking communion with them, you know, but you're going to see the gospel start to play out in their life, and you're going to say, you know what, like, let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about, you know, confessing and believing, you know, not just that we're a sinner, and that Jesus has died for your sins, but do you believe this? And specifically ask them that.
I also, like, going into those situations, I would also pray and ask God to open your eyes to opportunities to talk. Because sometimes when I walk away, I regret, like, oh, I didn't see that. I should have saw that. So sometimes when I would walk into a situation, especially if I walk into a room after I've disciplined, like I sent someone up to the room so I can talk to them, I pray before I go in, okay, God, give me eyes and ears to hear opportunities to bring things in. So I try to change, because sometimes I have what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going. So I try to be open-minded and look for opportunities. That would be something I'm thinking, like to pray that God would help you see opportunities to speak into their lives and things. And then also, the other encouragement, the more practice, the better. I know it's not all about, but the more you do stuff with kids, you'll be like, oh, this would be a great opportunity for me to bring this in. This would be, so I encourage you, just keep at it, and you'll learn, like, oh, like, you'll just get better at interacting with kids. You won't always have all the answers, but you'll get better at seeing, they're asking me this question, but really, I think they're really asking a different question, so I'm going to go there with them. And I'm going to answer it in a different way to try to address a different answer. But that takes some practice, and like we're all practicing.
And I would encourage you not to necessarily Jayme and I. She mentioned our legalistic background, and we went to college. We met at a college together, and we would have these big evangelistic events, and all these kids would come forward, usually kids or teenagers, and sometimes they would just come forward because their friend came forward, or they were scared of hell, and we'd be like, okay, great, let's talk about this. We talk about it, but we wouldn't force them to make a decision. Like, we were okay with taking the decision card and marking, no decision making. It's okay. Like, there's grace for the interaction. It's far better for them to walk away not making a decision and still thinking about it than for them to make a decision, a false decision, and walk away and be like, yeah, I'm safe. I'm not going to hell.
We thought that.
We thought that. That wasn't necessarily the prevailing thinking at the school that we're at. So, and I think at that time we didn't really know where we were going with this and our kids and stuff like that. So, I think that kind of shaped our outlook on the gospel. And notice I didn't even talk about hell in the 3 steps of the gospel. It's okay to talk about it. That's obviously, hell is a reality, and it's in the Bible, and it's okay to talk about, but it shouldn't necessarily be the priority. So it's okay if you have that conversation with a kid, and they're like, yeah, I don't really understand. That's okay. That's great. That means you've interacted with them, you've gotten an honest answer from them, and you can follow through with that.
And again, you're a midwife. You're just there watching. You're not there to control or make it happen or to get that baby out of there. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Hope you understand this is a process. You don't have to be perfect. Can we pray over them?
Sure.
You're going to have a short break, and then you guys go to a second.
I was just going to look at the schedule. Let me pray real quick. God, thank you so much for our time together. Thank you for the hearts of these parents and just the hearts that they have for the kids that they interact with in their lives, God. I pray that you would just bless them as they go, teach them something today that they can carry out into their families, into their kids. God, I thank you for all that you do for us, for the grace that you have for us, God, and just the gospel and that you sent your Son to die for us, God. Thank you for that. Thank you for that you provided a way for our sins to be covered, God. So thank you, and give us a good day today. Amen.